Hey parents and coaches, are your kids using the right glove? The most important skill for youth athletes to learn is how to play proper catch. The problem is, most youth gloves are made with bad leather and are too big for small hands. They actually make it harder to play catch. That's why former Major League Baseball shortstop Kevin Smith created Cali gloves. Cali gloves are crafted from 100% Japanese kip leather and are the perfect size for kids. All Cali gloves come with palm slits, finger loops, and elastic wrist lacing that encourage proper hand placement, the right closing patterns, and give kids more confidence to go make plays. Cali gloves even allow parents to break in the glove without stretching out the fit. It's the glove Kevin wishes he had growing up, and the glove all his teammates want for their kids. Visit caligloves.com to learn more and help your kids play better catch. That's Cali Gloves, K-A-L-I gloves.com.
Welcome to this week's edition of In the Clubhouse with EMD Baseball. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. I was a little fired up in our pre-talk here, so I'm going to try to tone it. I'm going to try to tone it down a little bit, but
we're not even going to be talking about what.
Yeah, we're not even talking about what we were talking about, but we are creeping up on that time of year where the mortal sin of, hey, just throw a bullpen in the game tomorrow. It'll be like your bullpen. I can use you for 45 pitches, like you were going to throw a bullpen anyway, where we start to have some of those conversations start to pop up. And these will become more prevalent in the summer when you're at the perfect game tournament down in Georgia and you got to win 9 games in 3.5 days. But I want to take a second to unpack this because I think it's really important for people to understand that those two things, a 60-pitch bullpen or a 45-pitch bullpen, we're going to use 60 pitches here as an example, but a 60-pitch bullpen versus a 60-pitch in-game outing, they are not the same. They're not the same for a variety of different reasons, and especially this early in the season. And when you're talking about arm health, which is a topic that needs to continue to be discussed around pitch counts and workloads and how we're handling young arms and all that good stuff that we've talked about on here before. But want to make sure that we draw a pretty clear line in the sand kind of on the differences here. So, yeah, you got any opening thoughts on that before we break down some of the numbers?
I was never a fan of it, quite frankly. I just think that there's way too much that goes into it from just on even on its surface, the obvious statement, right? Like the bullpen, you're not necessarily always going max effort, and you throw to get ready. You eat your arms, your weighted balls, you warm up your body blade, your long toss, you throw your pen, 15, 20, 30, 40 pitches maybe at max in the season, and then you're done. The in-game stuff is, you're maybe not getting your full warm-up that you're looking for. You're probably going to throw at least 20 to 20, probably 20 at least to get loose. And if you're on a 40-pitch limit, now you're going out to the mound. You're going to throw another 8 on the mound to get ready. Now for 28, like you got to throw 3 outs in 12 pitches. And that generally doesn't happen. And we think about it in terms of what the number of the pitches are in game, and I just think that that's a flawed thought process when we do that, because there's a lot more that goes on into it to guys getting loose, and you run the risk of them trying to shorten down to not go out to the mound, to keep their numbers down, and then maybe they get hurt there or something. It might not be that exact instance that they get hurt, but like that wear and tear might lead to something down the line. So I've never been a fan of it. It's not something that I like doing. I really wouldn't allow my guys to do it when I coached. And I know that people ask the question, and generally speaking, guys want the ball to go do it. But, I think that there's more harm than good in a lot of those things.
Yeah, and I think, once again, like, I shouldn't say once again, but I think one of the things that is important to understand here is that you're asking youth kids to do things that you wouldn't ask college and professional guys to do. The only time you would ask guys to come back on short rest or unacceptable rest or in extreme situations, right? You're talking about trying to win championships. It's when you see starters throw on short rest and all that kind of stuff. But for the purposes of what we're talking about, like there's a reason that in college you have hot days and cold days. There's guys who go into a weekend game like, hey, you're not throwing. You've already reached what you're doing. It's not a bullpen session. It's nothing like that. Like we protect our college arms much better than we protect our young arms. And I think it's kind of backwards. Maybe not even backwards. I just think the high school level kid oftentimes is subject to what's being told to them and not really understanding the full scope of what's being asked of them. And I kind of broke down some of the numbers. So if you got a 60 pitch bullpen, you're probably going to make about 90 total throws. You'll probably throw, maybe 30 pitches. Assume all your warm-up stuff, your dynamic warm-up, your stretching, your med balls, and all that stuff is the same. But when you're talking about like physically throwing the baseball, if you're going to throw a 60 pitch bullpen, you might make 90 total throws. To your point about the in-game stuff, 60 pitches in-game, well, that's also going to come with probably a lengthier warm-up. So call it another 40 pitches. So you're already up to 100 on top of the 60 that you're going to throw in the game, plus what you're going to do in between. So if it's 60 pitches and you throw 4 innings, there's another 20 warm-up throws, 20 plus warm-up throws. So now you're already at 120. So you've thrown the ball 30 extra times, probably bare minimum. That's not taking into account one of the things that you brought up that needs to be emphasized is you cannot replicate in-game intensity in the stressors that happen in game, throwing from the stretch, handling runners, the mental anxiety around it, just the stress and the intent behind pitches. It's just different. You can throw hard in the bullpen and hit your velocities and do all that stuff, but it's just not the same. It's not the same thing. And I think it's important. Like if you're a high school coach out there and you haven't thought about this, I think you need to think long and hard about how you handle your guys. Like if they have a bullpen day, they should not be throwing that quote unquote bullpen in the game. If you don't have enough arms to get through a game, that's a different problem. But you shouldn't sacrifice a high school game or a kid's potential health because he was supposed to throw a 45 pitch bullpen. So you think you can get 3 innings out of him in a game instead. It's bluntly put, it's irresponsible. And it's selfish. And you see it happen in travel ball, probably more because of the way that the tournaments are set up. And I don't think you can ever put the health of a player at risk because you want to advance to the round of 32 down in Georgia.
If you're the parent of a high school baseball player with college aspirations, you already know the recruiting process can feel overwhelming. Endless showcases, nonstop emails, and big promises with very little clarity. That's why we recommend Diamond College Showcase Camps, the nation's premier academic baseball showcase. At Diamond College Showcases, every college coach in attendance is there with a purpose: to coach, instruct, evaluate, and recruit. Every player is seen, every player is engaged, and every family leaves with a clear understanding of where they truly stand. This is not a mass camp. College coaches run the drills, evaluate every athlete, and provide honest professional feedback that you can trust. Diamond College Showcase Camps are built for serious student athletes who value both baseball and academics. If you're looking for transparency, clarity, and a recruiting experience that respects your time and your player's future, Diamond College Showcase is the place to be. To learn more, visit diamondcollegeshowcase.com. Yeah, I mean, it's wildly irresponsible. I was coming at it from the lens of a college. Like, I hated when guys did it in college summer baseball.
Yeah.
I not that I wasn't thinking about it, but I think it's incredibly irresponsible at the lower levels just because it's guys aren't developed enough. They're not built up to do that. I'm against it in college, obviously, because it's guys that aren't necessarily, I'm going to use the term yours, when you're doing it. But, for the most part, those guys are built up to throw that much, but also, like, you don't know, but you don't know how much they threw all year. and where they're at, and can they handle it? And that could be something that could be a contributing factor down the road. Obviously, you hope no one ever gets hurt, but I think with younger players, it's something that it shouldn't happen. Like, and it's a problem that we have that many games in a tournament because we have 797 teams, so we have 18,000 rounds. Your pool play into a bracket of 110. But if you need more arms, go get more arms. If not, risking people's future and health for another win isn't worth it. It's I don't know. I think we've lost, as the kids say, they've lost the plot on some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I would be furious if one of my recruits went threw on a Friday and then on Monday threw a bullpen in game. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be furious if you had a kid who was coming on campus and you found out hey, he threw 85 pitches on Friday and they brought him back to throw 45 in game on Tuesday. I'd be on the phone with that coach.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Possible.
Well, we're within the pitch count rules. That's not the point.
Yeah, there's a reason that college guys operate on a once every 6 days, once every 7 days. No college guys throwing their Friday guy on Friday and then bringing him back to get some outs on Tuesday. It would never happen. And you could be like, oh, well, they have more arms. Yeah, but
as a starter.
Yeah, but that's also kind of the point. Go get some more arms. Don't go to the tournament. You need to win 10 games in 4 days with 6 arms. And then subject those kids to stresses that they don't need to be subjected to. Go down there with more arms and divvy it out and schedule it. Everything you should, if you're going to win one of those tournaments, there's really only a handful of teams that can really do it. But the health of the kids should never come before trying to win that tournament.
No,
or it should always come before. Excuse me. It should always come before trying to win those tournaments and doing that kind of stuff and being responsible with those kids and making sure that they have the proper rest and planning it out. And then honestly, from a coach's perspective, if I know you have a script, it makes my job easier as an evaluator because I know hey, coming to watch this kid throw and he's going to throw innings 4 through 7. And then he's not coming back again for the tournament. Parents, if you've ever felt overwhelmed trying to navigate youth sports, there's a new resource designed just for you, Team Match. Team Match is an online platform built to streamline how families find the right youth sports teams by location, sport, and skill level, all in one place. It also provides a safe, organized space for kids to share their accomplishments, stats, and highlights while giving coaches and teams a clear way to connect with athletes who are the right fit. Less searching, less stress, more confidence in the process. Youth sports just got simpler for families. This is Team Match. Check it out today at teammatchsports.com. I'm going to go and I'm going to see him in that one spot.
Correct.
And the coaches who are evaluating appreciate it. The kids, I think the kids too, I think the other part of it is that you give these kids a chance to prepare properly. And they get to build up to the day that they're going to throw. Hey, I know I'm going to throw game 2 on Saturday at this field at 2:00 in the afternoon. And I'm going to plan my week to make sure that I'm ready to go for that game. And I don't have to juggle this variable of well, am I going to throw 45 pitches and I'm going to have to come back 2 days later and throw another 45? I've never really done that. I'm a high school starter. I usually throw every Tuesday. And now you're asking me to throw Saturday and then Tuesday. And you get these kids in this spin cycle of not being comfortable. They're not built to do it. They haven't been asked to do it in the past. Don't ask them to do it right now.
No, you shouldn't. It shouldn't even be a question that gets asked. If you want my honest answer.
So, moral of the story is that the in-game quote unquote bullpen is not the same as the bullpen that you throw in a controlled environment where you have a pitch count and you're working on specific things and you're trying to get your work in. It's not the same. It's not the same. And high school coaches and travel coaches, if you're listening to this, avoid it at all costs, and make sure that you're always putting the kids' health at the forefront of the equation here, because it'll pay dividends for you in the long run, but it also, you're doing right by the kid, and that's ultimately what matters here.
Correct.
Anything else you want to add, Coach?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you for our TED Talk on bullpens. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.